What's up guys, Jeff Cavalier, ATHLEAN-X.com. Today we're going to cover 11 exercises that allow you to tap into one of the most overlooked and underutilized muscle functions to get better results. It's called the stretch reflex. So today we're going to go through that. Oh, why are you back here again?
Oh, dude, you took stretch reflex.
What are you doing?
I'm stretching.
It's not that kind of stretching.
It's not?
No.
Oh, this is going to make my intro really awkward.
Feel good now? 11 exercises, guys, hand-picked because they provide you with the best opportunity to tap into that stretch reflex, which creates a greater potential for muscle recruitment and an overall better gain. So with that being said, guys, we're going to cover every single muscle group in the body here, one by one. Let's start breaking them down. So now the stretch reflex is actually something we all have. It's just that we're not really tapping into it if you don't know how to. You see, it's a protective mechanism that our muscles have that allows us to get a better strength of contraction when a muscle is momentarily stretched to its limits. And we can do it by actually doing it purposely, right? Building it into the exercises that we do. So one of the best ways to do this, if we're talking about our triceps, is to do something like the lying tricep extension. Now there's a reason why this works better than anything else, because it takes the tricep muscle through a full stretch. See, if you just did this is the tricep pushdown. You can see that while I'm getting a stretch because the elbow is flexing as much as I can, I'm actually not getting a full stretch on the tricep because the long head requires that my arm be up and over my head like this. It's not happening here. So the right one is this, the lying tricep extension. Because here, I not only get the elbow to be bent as much as I can, but I get the elbow up and over my head that recruits that long head on stretch. So here's what we're going to do. You're going to take this exercise and do it one of two ways. Either you do it just like this, which means you get down to the bottom here, go into a full stretch, and then turn that around as quick as possible. Get into the stretch and out of the stretch to elicit that stretch reflex. If you want to do this at a more advanced level, then you would do this. You take your rep all the way down, you come up 1/4, hold for a brief second, and then allow sort of a drop into that stretch reflex and come out of it. It becomes a little bit more ballistic at that point. Again, more for the advanced people who have actually had experience with this stretch reflex, but the fact is you can do it either way. If you want to get the triceps to have a stronger strength of contraction and greater overall gains, then this is what you do. Now when it comes to the biceps, the exercise of choice here is the incline bicep curl. Why? Because it gives you that opportunity to put the biceps in a stretch position. Anything done standing is going to start with your arms out in front of your body or at best at the side of your body, but if we can get our arms back naturally behind our body, then we've already started to tap into that stretch, but how we do the exercise matters. See, because if you do your incline curls like this, you're actually never even allowing the bicep to get into a stretch position at all. And a lot of people will do this. They cut short the bottom range of motion. So to do this the right way, what you do is you make sure that your arms are sinking all the way back at the bottom. And again, you want to make sure that you get out of this position to apply that stretch to the biceps. We can do something extra here, which is another way to utilize the stretch reflex, and that is to contract the antagonistic muscle, in this case the triceps. We know that if we contract the triceps, we have to momentarily relax the biceps to allow for a greater stretch. That momentary contraction of the triceps gives you that relaxation of the biceps. That triggers the stretch reflex, which allows for that greater strength of contraction out of the bottom. In the advanced version, we would do the same thing. You come down to the bottom, up 1/4, hold it for a brief second, drop down into that position, get that tricep contraction, and bounce right back out of it again. Either way, it doesn't matter which one you do or where you're starting from, they're both going to work to get those biceps contracting harder. So now when it comes to the back, I actually got 3 exercise options here for you. Because you want to stretch the back out, you got to make sure that you get your arms up out in front of your body. And there's no easier place to start than right here on a lat pull down. But you're not going to do this. You're not going to do the overhand lat pull down. Now there's nothing wrong with this. I've done this exercise a million times and love it. But when you're trying to tap into the stretch reflex, then you got to switch your hands to this position. Why? It's not just about the hands. It's what happens to your arms when you do that. Your arms come out in front of your body. And we know that since the lats attach to the upper arm, going from a position of here to here creates a bigger stretch on the lats without even doing any of the reps yet in the exercise. So when we do this, now we come down, we can do them in the same way. We either could do them the standard way of going into that stretch position at the top and trying to quickly reverse the direction back down again. Remember, get that momentary stretch, take advantage of that built-in function of our body and get back down into a stronger contraction on that lat pull down. If, however, we want to go in and do this with a little bit more advanced way, we can just make sure that we get it up there. Again, remember, pull down just a little bit, hold for a second, let it fall up to the top, and pull down again. Now, we can do this to other exercises. One of the ways I like to do it is with the seated row. And maybe you might have noticed when Jesse did the exercise, the handles weren't at the level of his midsection or his chest. They're actually much lower. Why? Because if we allow ourselves to get our hands down low, out in front of us, because we're leaning forward, it's actually creating a relative elevation of our arm, more stretch on the lats. As you see here now, with me being in this position, I can get that stretch and I can take advantage of the stretch reflex by being a little bit aggressive as I get towards the end of that repetition. Remember, allow the stretch to take me through that full stretch and come back into a stronger, more powerful contraction. The second version of this would once again be get the hands up, hold for a brief second, allow it to drop, and then come back into a more powerful contraction. The last exercise is one that I actually credit to my friend and colleague John Meadows, and it's the Meadows row. But instead of doing it this way, if you want to take advantage of a greater stretch reflex, then what you have to do is just apply this slight rollout to it. So this exercise, you can see, is a great way in a closed chain environment to train your back. But as I get the bar down to the ground, I simply roll it out to, again, allow myself to get a greater stretch and quickly roll it back and right up into the rep. More powerful contraction, more muscle fiber recruitment, better muscle gains in the long run. So now when it comes to the chest, maybe you're thinking, I know Jeff's not going to go to the chest fly. Well, sort of. I mean, I'm not going to do an unsupported dumbbell bench fly because I know the vulnerability of the shoulder in that position, and we wouldn't want to play around with the stretch reflex of that exercise. In fact, we don't even do the exercise. However, you could do the standing version here, which is the 3D cable crossover. We have the opportunity to do just the traditional way here, where we get that stretch and then explosively come out of it, or we could take it up that quarter of a way, drop it back down a little bit more ballistically, again, under control always, come up, back up to the top with another strong contraction. But we don't have to stop there. We can apply this to a bench press also. And in the form of a dumbbell bench press, we have a couple things we want to make sure that we do to make this even more effective. The first thing is utilize what I've covered before as the chest master tip. Whenever you're training your chest, you want to make sure that you take your traps and you depress them. Because when you depress your traps, not only is it setting your shoulder blades back and down, but it's taking your shoulders from a position of dominance from here and is getting them out of the way so that the chest can do more of the work. But I've also given myself a greater stretch on the chest, touching the outside of your pecs with those dumbbells and driving out of every repetition more forcefully. Of course, you've got the opportunity to do that extra quarter rep if you so choose to get that more ballistic extra push to make that repetition even that much more explosive. So you might be wondering, well, Jeff, what about a dip? A dip is a great exercise for the chest that actually does place a good stretch on the pecs, especially those lower pec fibers. However, I wouldn't use it as a choice here because you're already in a vulnerable position at the bottom of a dip. So going into the bottom of a dip more aggressively is just taking an already vulnerable shoulder, anterior capsule, and placing more stress on it. So a good exercise that does place a stretch on the chest, but not for this particular use. So when it comes to the shoulders, if you want to create more width and size, the middle delt is where you should probably focus your efforts. However, the side lateral raise, as you can see here, has its limitations, at least as far as the stretch reflex recruitment goes, because you never really get there. You see, if you want to stretch your middle delt out, you're going to have to bring your arm across your body. And the only way to do this is to utilize either cables or to change the way you do the exercise and the position of your body when you do it. And we can do this here with this incline side lateral raise. You can see as I lay myself on the bench in this way, I don't get stopped by my own leg in the lateral raise. I can go across my body, further out in front, and get that stretch that we're looking for. And again, we can do this in that 1 1/4 way, take it up just a little bit, and then drop it and more forcefully come out of the bottom here. The choice is up to you. It depends on your level of experience, but this is the way to do it if you're looking to take advantage of this and apply it to your shoulder training. So now when it comes to the legs, we can apply the stretch reflex here as well. Think about it. A squat gives us a great opportunity to do this. However, you might be thinking, oh, we're hitting our quads, right? No, the stretch reflex when applied to a squat is actually placing it on the glutes, because if you think about what happens at the bottom of a squat, you realize there's not enough stretch on the quads to actually take advantage of the reflex. You see, if you get to the bottom of a squat and you were to simply lay yourself on your side, you'll see that this is not placing the quads on any type of significant stretch. Even though your knee is bent, it's not bent enough. And of course, to get a greater stretch in your quads, knowing that the rectus crosses the hip as well, you'd have to get your leg behind your body. So this isn't going to cut it there. But we do know that because we're in deep hip flexion at the bottom of the squat, we're going to have a great stretch on the glutes. We're going to get a stronger thrust out of the bottom of the squat, the hardest place to perform the lift. Now that being said, that doesn't devalue the pause squat. As a matter of fact, the pause squat is done for a different reason. Remember, there's other aspects to your training. This is not the only thing you should be pursuing, the stretch reflex. Because at the bottom of a pause squat, you're learning to take the stretch reflex out of the equation so you can get more strength and just overall ability to overcome the inertia of being at the bottom of the lift, so that when you go back and add the stretch reflex to it, now you get the benefits of both of them. And finally here we can hit the hamstrings with an exercise like the single leg RDL. Or we can hit the glutes. You see, how you do this exercise will actually change whether or not you're going to shift the focus from the hamstrings to the glutes. A lot of people will do this exercise like this. And this might be good if you're trying to create a stretch on the hamstrings. You see, because as you lean forward, you're not getting any real loading of the hip because you're not allowing yourself to go into hip flexion at all. You're just simply bending forward at the waist, which creates that stretch on the hamstrings. This is the best way to perform the exercise if you're looking to get that stretch reflex on the hamstrings. But if we wanted to shift the focus to the glutes, if you sit back, you see, you create the hip flexion by hinging at the hips. And when you do hinge, that will load the glutes up, preferentially recruiting them over the hamstrings because the focus isn't so much on keeping a straight knee as it is on maximizing your hinge. Again, whichever one you choose here, guys, the way you do it's going to be the same. And the idea is recruiting more muscle fibers to the task at hand by taking advantage of a reflex you're probably overlooking right now. So there you have it, guys, 11 exercises primed to help you to get better gains. Start to implement them and use them yourself to start to see better gains. In the meantime, if you're looking for a program that builds in all these exercises at the right time to get you the right results, they're all in our ATHLEAN-X programs over at ATHLEAN-X.com. If you haven't already done so, guys, make sure you click subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a new video when we put one out. Maybe even a better intro from Jesse. All right, see you soon.